yourself and say, can I really afford to continue to believe as I have? There's tensions, and you demythologize. So you've believed the stories, and you've even believed your story of stories, and now that's coming apart. And you have to put something in its place. You differentiate both yourself, so your interior of your individual, and your worldview, the way you look at the world, from those of others. From your family is one of the really painful ones that happens at this time. And it may also be from your church, from your group that you've been a part of and have depended on for your identity for all these years. You examine your beliefs and identity. You can take a third-person perspective. So we said always something cognitively is happening that foreshadows all these other stages. So stage 4 can come about when you can take a third-person perspective. You can triangulate. You can take into account the opinions of others and yourself and see, okay, what does that lead to? How do I transcend and include what I believe and what they believe into a higher place? So what you're doing here is basically identifying who you will be, and perhaps who you will be for the rest of your life. You're essentially building a house that you can dwell in. And for some people, that house is a fairly comfortable place to dwell in for the rest of life. And for some people, those walls at some point start to come in, and you start to get disillusioned with the walls that you've set up that define yourself. And you realize, Jeff does a brilliant job of quoting Walt Whitman, Song of the Open Road, but you realize I'm bigger than that. I'm bigger than these walls that I put up to define myself. And I'm making too many compromises based on who I think that I've been. Life is more complex than that. So these stages become more and more rare, and we see them less and less. Stage 5, called conjunctive, meaning and just like a conjunction. So I'm joining two things. I'm joining who I've been and who I can be at this conjunctive phase. It emerges in midlife, usually, if at all. There's a second naivete. We can again start to talk about the symbols and the stories. We can talk about Genesis and see what a spectacularly beautiful myth that explains so much about who we are as human beings. And I don't need to critique it anymore and say, well, it didn't happen that way, because I can see there's a truth contained in it that's actually even deeper than the historical truth that it was trying to convey, or that people lay on its shoulders. So there's a deeper truth there, and you can see these things from a new place. And all these old devotions that you had to shove away when you were being rational, they can start to come back, reunited with conceptual meanings, opening to the voices of one's deeper self, moving in this direction. Paradox. For Father Richard, paradox is a very important experience for us to embrace and hold, not necessarily turn away from. Apparent contradiction. We can hold that because we're bigger than all that. So we call the self at this stage inter-individual. And then we might ask, okay, if we move to this stage, then what might bring us beyond this stage? Because at this stage, there can be a real helplessness. You can become frozen, and you become frozen because you see the beauty of what could be, and you see the reality of what is, and you say, what could I possibly do to make the world better? You know, it feels like a losing battle. And so we can get frozen and paralyzed in this stage. Or, in some cases, it yields to what Fowler's original highest stage was, which is universalizing. And this is a radical decentration from the self. So what the self had always meant to me is now almost irrelevant, because I realize that I'm here for the divine to move me. I'm a channel. I'm a window from the divine to the divine. And I'm open to wherever I'm called to be for those purposes. But who I thought I was in my ego is no longer relevant. It just falls away. The Christian image of kenosis is really beautiful for this. Take the line from Philippians. Though he was in the form of God, Jesus did not deem equality with God something to be grasped at or clung to. Rather, he emptied himself, taking on the form of a human being. So if Jesus didn't hold on to being God, then why would I hold on to being Rollie, who I thought I've always been? Perfect love casts out fear. So you see in people from this stage, it's unmistakable. Grounded not in the small self, but in the transcendent self. And the kingdom of God, in Christian terminology, the kingdom of God becomes very important at this point. And you realize it's here and it's now. It's not something in the future. It's here and now. And people like Gandhi, MLK, Jesus were clearly coming from this stage. And they were working to bring about this kingdom. They're agents for this kingdom. So that's the highest stage of the, yeah, please.